The National Girls Speech and Debate Championship is brought to you by Mermac Productions in partnership with the Ghana Education Service, Ghana Commission for UNESCO, Forum for African Women Educationalists, and Planned Parenthood Association of Ghana. Proudly sponsored by Margins ID Systems, Identity Management Systems, Intelligent Card Production Systems, CUPA Study International, Verna Mineral Water, McBerry Biscuits, and Planet Drinks. Also supported by Uncle Adlaw, for Buying Organization, and Canan Care Travel and Tour. NGSDC, Educate, Empower, Encourage.
My name is Bridget Jam Priscilla, a student of NSAWAM Senior High School, and today we are having a debate in our school, and I will assure you that we are truly winning the contest.
Majima,
Yeri Paje, Yeri Paje.
Yeah, we are winning. Yeah. Oh my God. This is BOST and me.
Yeah, BOST and me. Good day, everyone. My name is Francisca Udu from GOMOA Senior High Technical School, Derampong. We are here for a debate, which is the National Girls Speech and Debate. Expect nothing from us but the best, as our motto says, unity, hard work, and progress. Thank you.
The motion for this session is that the introduction of term limits for all elected government officials will enhance democracy in Ghana. The introduction of term limits for all elected government officials will enhance democracy in Ghana. NSAWAM Senior High School says, yes, if we limit the terms of 4 elected government officials in Ghana, it will enhance democracy. GOMOA says, nehi. We should not limit the term. It doesn't enhance democracy in Ghana. They'll put forth their argument in this battle of facts and figures, and we'll see which school comes first. So the principal speaker for each side has 7 minutes to make their point. On your 5th minute, you hear the bell go. It means you have used 5 minutes. You have 2 more minutes to wrap up. Are we okay? And then when you exhaust all the 7, you hear the bell go. Then it means you are out of your 7 minutes. The other speaker has 5 minutes. The supporting speaker has 5 minutes. On your 3rd minute, you also hear the bell go. Then it means you have 2 more minutes. When you exhaust your 2, you hear the bell go ping. Then the final speaker has 3 minutes. You don't have a reminder. When you exhaust all the 3, you hear the bell go. And it means you are out of your time.
The chair, impartial jury, accurate timekeeper, co-debaters, ladies and gentlemen, good day. I respond to the name Lorena Medi Kakari, a dignified student of NSAWAM Senior High School, and I'm elated to speak in favor of the motion before the House. I quote, the introduction of term limits for all elected government officials who enhance democracy in Ghana, unquote. The chair, before my team and I proceed to elaborate on our major point, permit me to give a brief exposition of the keywords in the motion. The chair, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, defines term limits as a specified number of term that a person in office is allowed to serve. Also, according to the U.S. legal definition website, elected officials are those who have won election to occupy position of authority and responsibility within governmental institutions. Lastly, democracy, as defined by the U.S. legal definition website, is a political system where the legitimacy of exercising power stems from the consent of the people. The chair permits me to lay this brief background to African democracy. Africa has traditionally been depicted in scholarly and popular literature as a place where former institutional rules are largely irrelevant. Undeniably, the last decade has witnessed countries extending, abolishing, or suspending the constraint on presidential tenures. The attraction of power is still strong, and the various networks across Africa suggest that there are several factors that have a bearing on the outcome of presidential endeavor with their extent to hold on power. The chair, my opponent may make empty argument that term limits undermine voter choice. My opponent Please learn this from my team today that term limit do not undermine voter choice, but rather enhance it by preventing the concentration of power and encouraging a broader selection of candidates. Again, my opponents may try to deceive you, my respected audience, by saying that term limit discourage long-term planning. My discerning audience, this is never true because elected officials can prioritize long-term planning by establishing a robust institution and policies that outlast their tenures, ensuring that their legacy continues through successive administrations. The chair, the following are the points raised in favor of the motion. First and foremost, the chair, the introduction of term limits for all elected government officials who ensure greater accountabilities. Elected officials are more likely to prioritize their needs to their constituents over personal or political interests, knowing that they cannot rely on indirect re-election. Term limits compel elected government officials to take more decisive action, fulfill campaign promises, and deliver a tangible result. This can foster the great sense of responsibility and responsiveness to the needs and aspirations of the people that they were elected to represent. The statement by the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance 2020 highlight that term limit can enhance accountability as leaders focus to leave a positive legacy rather than securing a prolonged tenure. For instance, Ghana's 1992 constitution stipulates a 2-term limit for president. This has fostered political stability and accountability. The former presidents, Jerry John Rawlings, John Ejekun Kufuor, and John Dramani Mahama, respected, which has resulted in peaceful transition and economic development. Furthermore, impartial jury, term limit of government officials who ensure stability and continuity. My opponent may argue that experienced leaders provide stability. However, term limit do not exclude experienced individuals from contributing to political process in other capacities, such as advisors. Importantly, a well-designed term limit policy includes mechanisms for smooth transition and ensuring that institutional knowledge is preserved and that governance remains stable. The chair, a classic example is right under our noses. Our own beloved country, Ghana, has experienced peaceful transition of power since the implementation of term limit in its 1992 constitution. This has contributed to political stability and continuous of economic and social development. My opponent, do you think it's for any reason that Ghana under the Fourth Republic has enjoyed political stability and continuity for 32 years without political crisis? Well, if you care to know, the secret is the provision of term limits in our current constitution. Moreover, impartial jury, term limits will enhance quality of governance. By preventing long-term incumbencies, term limit can enhance the quality of governance. New leaders bring different approaches which can lead to more effective and responsive governance. The United Nations Development Program found that countries with term limits often experience a high level of development and a better public service delivery, as new leaders are motivated to make significant improvements during their limited time in office. In addition, when the tenure of elected officials is limited, it can prevent the concentration of power and encouraging a fresh perspective and new ideas in government. Term limits can also reduce the special interest group and improve a more representative democracy, as elected officials will be more accountable to the people rather than entrenched interest. Furthermore, impartial jury, term limit can help increase the diversity of political representation, as new leaders with diverse background and experiences are given the opportunity to serve. Finally, impartial jury, term limit will help mitigate electoral manipulation and reduces the advantages of incumbencies, such as state resources and media dominance. In many cases, long-serving incumbents manipulate electoral process to secure their position, undermining democratic process. Africa's political history is plagued with several examples of presidents who have tried and succeeded in their manipulating electoral process to suit their selfish ambition, in the process making the continent a laughingstock. For how long will the continent continue to be poorly advertised of international stage? I say enough is enough. Term limit can level the playing ground, fostering a fairer and a more competitive elections. The chair, the following are the points in favor of motion. The introduction of term limits: 1, ensure greater accountability; 2, ensure stability and continuity; 3, enhance the quality of governance; 4, mitigate electoral manipulation and reduces the advantages of incumbencies. The chair, all protocols duly observed. With the above points well delineated and looking at the defeated faces of my opponents, I therefore call upon all and sundry, including my opponent, to affirm the motion. I quote, the introduction of term limits for all elected government officials who enhance democracy in Ghana. Unquote. Thank you.
In his famous book, Africa Must Unite, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah said, and I quote, "The question of term limits is a controversial one, and it is not a simple matter of yes or no. We must consider the context and potential consequences of such a limit. The chairperson, impartial panel of adjudicators, all protocols duly observed. My name is Miss Osei, Principal Speaker of GOMOA Senior High Technical School Debate Team, speaking vehemently against the motion that, quote unquote, the introduction of term limits for all elected government officials will enhance democracy in Ghana. After my delivery comes the first supporting speaker, then the last speaker to close the argument against the motion. As and when needed, exhibits and evidence shall be tendered in to buttress our argument. The chair, I crave your indulgence to explain the key terms in the motion. First, term limits. The National Congress of State Legislators 2020 defines term limits as a legal restriction on the number of terms an elected government official can serve in a particular office. In Ghana, term limits are provided for in the 1992 Constitution under Article 66, Sections 1 and 2 respectively for the President. I tender in evidence. Next is elected official. The International Foundation for Electoral Systems 2022 defines an elected official as an individual who has been chosen by the voters to represent them in government. Last but not least is democracy. The United Nations defines democracy as a system of government where the people are the source of all power and the government is accountable to the people, the chair. At its core, the motion means that setting a limited number of terms for an elected government official will make democracy better. Once again, my team and I clearly dissociate ourselves from such a contentious motion based on the advanced undisputed argument we are going to expound. Now to my first argument. Election is the best form of term limit, and we already have it. Panel of judges, our position against the motion hinges on the fact that the introduction of term limits is a waste of constitutional space, resource, and time, as elections already provide a robust mechanism for limiting the terms of government officials in Ghana. As renowned political scientist Robert Dow, 1971, noted, the essence of democracy is the ability of citizens to hold leaders accountable through regular, free, and fair elections. Esteemed judges, elections have thus been held regularly in Ghana, and Ghanaians have consistently demonstrated our ability to hold leaders accountable. In 2016, the incumbent president, John Dramani Mahama, was defeated by opposition candidate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, demonstrating the power of the electorate to determine the fate of government officials and how long they should serve in office. In Rwanda, for example, term limits were removed in 2015. I tender in an evidence, allowing the people to re-elect Paul Kagame, their preferred candidate for a third term, and we are witnesses to the tremendous development Rwanda is experiencing under Kagame's exceptional leadership. Why then must Ghana waste time and resources to pass a legislative instrument to regulate the number of terms an elected government official can serve in a particular office, when that power already resides with the people, the chair? The ballot box should remain the primary means for removing ineffective elected officials and not term limits. Now to my second argument. Term limits is a form of democratic paternalism. Ladies and gentlemen, when Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States, described democracy as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, he actually meant that decisions must be taken by citizens and not by any restricted legislation. I am of the strongest conviction that term limits are based on the arrogant assumption that the voters are incapable of choosing the leaders they want. And such assumption is not only undemocratic, but also undermines democracy. Ronald Reagan, former US president, once said, the most important thing is to understand that the power is with the people and not with the government. Reagan, 1981. Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana gives Ghanaians the right to vote for their preferred candidate during elections. I tender in an evidence. Esteemed judges, it is for this reason that I am saying the introduction of term limits is not only undemocratic, but also an abuse and violation of the people's political right to choose the leaders they want. Now to my third argument, potential for corruption. Esteemed judges, we are of the opinion that introducing term limits will lead to the proliferation of unhealthy political rivals. This is because outgoing officials will work under pressure and try to accumulate wealth at the expense of national development, knowing they have limited time in office. Esteemed judges, the Victoria Hammer and Cecilia Dapa corruption scandals in 2013 and 2023 alone, respectively, are evidence to back our case. I tender in an evidence. Moreover, the chair, term limits will lead to a huge financial burden on the state due to the constant payment of retirement benefits, popularly known as ex gratia. The chair, according to a report by the Ghanaian Ghanaian Times, the government paid a total amount of 23.6 million cedis as ex-Russia to outgoing officials alone. This amount is staggering, especially when compared to the country's infrastructure needs. Ladies and gentlemen, in the absence of term limits, leaders could stay in power a little bit longer, ensuring stability, continuity, and these huge monies could serve the state better. Now to my fourth argument on healthy political rivals. Esteemed judges, term limits will lead to the proliferation of unhealthy political rivals. This is because outgoing officials will constantly compare themselves to their predecessors, forcing a culture of competition and unnecessary tension. Esteemed judges, we have seen examples in Ghana where recently Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, running mate of Dr. Bawumia, at his inaugural speech, described His Excellency Nana Addo as Ghana's best president. I tender in an evidence and even belittled the legacies of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, sparking a wave of political tension between opposition parties. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch this video.
Messi Afrique 1957. Back in there, one form of Kwame Nkrumah, no, one form of Obia, the one of the Mampania, one book Ghana who buy, and the Ghana colony, China, Nadu Dankwa, Akufuado.
Such statements are not only divisive, but also undermines democratic process. Now, to our fifth argument, term limits breeds violence and instability. Esteemed judges, term limits will lead to the political violence and instability as seen in other African countries like Burundi and DR Congo. I tender in an evidence as I rest my case.
Dreaming of studying abroad, United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, or other countries? CUPA Study International makes that dream a reality. With over 29 years experience in the school placement business, we provide expert guidance to prospective students from application to admission on visa processing, accommodation, travel, and scholarships. Our global partnerships open doors to prestigious universities worldwide, helping you gain world-class education and international exposure and preparing our students for their future careers. From your hometown to your dream destination, we work with you every step of the way. CUPA Study International, Ghana's premier college and university placement agency, is an efficient and very professional agency. Visit us today to take the next steps towards a successful career. Success starts here. Let's facilitate your study abroad journey smoothly.
Imagine a world without worry. A place where everyone is who they say they are, where the people and assets most important to you are protected. A safe space. For over 3 decades, Margins ID Group and its subsidiaries have been building this world. Our state-of-the-art access control systems, asset tagging systems, and CCTV installations ensure that the assets most important to you are protected. We have designed and built award-winning national identity infrastructures, supported by our ultra-modern in-house designed and built verification system. We are the identity experts. We represent you, and we are certified to do so. Proudly, the only African facility to be certified by Intergraph at central banking level. Margins ID Group, made in Ghana, by Ghanaians, for the world. Visit us now at www.marginsgroup.com.
The National Girls Speech and Debate Championship is brought to you by Mermac Productions in partnership with the Ghana Education Service, Ghana Commission for UNESCO, Forum for African Women Educationalists, and Planned Parenthood Association of Ghana. Proudly sponsored by Margins ID Systems, Identity Management Systems, Intelligent Card Production Systems, CUPA Study International, Verna Mineral Water, McBerry Biscuits, and Planet Drinks. Also supported by Uncle Adlaw for Buying Organization and Canan Care Travel and Tour. NGSDC, Educate, Empower, Encourage.
Panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, co-debaters, ladies and gentlemen, good day. My name is Albert Enyama, a student from NSAWAM Senior High, and I'm privileged to debate on the motion before the House. I quote, the introduction of term limits for all elected government officials will enhance democracy in Ghana, unquote, which I strongly rise as the first supporting speaker to speak in favor of the motion. The chair, I will proceed since my honorable principal speaker has done justice to the key words in the motion. The chair, I will proceed. But before I proceed to elaborate on my major points, my opponents hold the view that term limits brings potential corruption. My opponents, if you care to know, term limits reduces corruption by preventing political entrenchment because term limits prevent elected officials from engaging in corrupt practices. The chair, the following are the points raised in favor of the motion. First and foremost, the impartial jury. Term limits reduces corruption. Term limits provides an important check on the concentration of power. It strengthens democracy and ensures long-term stability. How is this practicable? One may ask. Term limits help mitigate corruption by preventing the entrenchment of political power. When officials remain in power indefinitely, there is the risk of developing the chair. When officials remain in power, there is the risk of developing power drunkenness. Brazil, one of the largest democracies in the world, is one of the best illustrations of the benefits of term limits. Presidents are banned from serving beyond second term. As a result, opposition and government forces over the 16 years have developed an equilibrium of power, which in turn has helped countries address a deepest problem through consensus. The result has been internationally acclaimed anti-poverty program, including conditional cash transfer and long-term investment in primary education, as espoused by Stephen Greiner on 14th April 2009 in his article published by the American Catholic. The chair, in addition, it is an established fact that one of the core principles of democracy is the diffusion of power. Therefore, unlimited term can lead to the entrenchment of political power, where a select few dominate political period for extended time. The chair, time limits prevent the formation of political dynasties and encourage healthy turnover of leadership. When officials remain in power indefinitely, there is a risk of developing autocratic tendencies where leaders become less accountable to the electorate. According to Molino and Diamond 2005, political entrenchment undermines democratic norms and could breed dictatorship and complacency. Hitkin and Kuhunta 2015 also posit that by imposing term limits, we can ensure a regular infusion of new leadership. Fostering a more dynamic and responsive political government that remain responsive for the needs of the people. Lastly, the chair, it will interest you to know that term limits for all politicians can promote political renewal. This way, it prevents politicians from holding power indefinitely. My opponents, have you tried examining how the number of seats allocated for members of parliament in Ghana keep increasing over the years? Well, let me educate you then with this information from Wikipedia. There were 140 members of parliament in the Second and Third Republic Parliament. However, the number of MPs increased to 200 and subsequently 275 in the Fourth Republic. This is as a result of the creation of more portfolios that needs to be occupied. The chair, the following are the points raised. Term limits: 1, reduces corruption. 2, prevents political entrenchment. 3, promotes political renewal. The chair, all protocols duly observed. With the above points explained, compared to the weak ones held by my opponents, I would like to call on you all in complete affirmation of the motion. I quote, the introduction of term limits for all elected government officials will enhance democracy in Ghana. Unquote. Thank you.
The chairperson, impartial panel of judges, all protocols duly observed. My name is Francisca Odu, first supporting speaker of GOMOA Senior High Technical School debate team, speaking vehemently against the motion that, quote and quote, the introduction of term limits for all elected government officials will enhance democracy in Ghana. The chair, I affirm all all that my principal speaker has said, and I proceed to advance new arguments. The later rebut some of the paperweight arguments raised by our opponents. Now to our fifth argument, term limits undermine long-term initiatives. The chair, in an article titled "The Impact of Term Limits on Governance in Africa" by CUPA 2016 in the African Journal of Political Science, the writer discusses how term limits may lead to short-term thinking among leaders. The chair, the introduction of term limits will compel leaders to prioritize short-term projects that fall within their term of administration, rather than focusing on long-term initiatives that benefit the nation. Esteemed judges, in Ghana, there are a lot of instances where long-term projects and policies of previous governments have been abandoned by new governments, causing staggering financial losses to the state. Now to our seventh argument. Term limit is an external interference in the democratic process. The chair, I want to state emphatically that term limit is an external interference in the democratic process which undermines the principles of democracy and takes away the power of decision-making from the people. Ladies and gentlemen, Farid Zakaria, a renowned author, once said, and I quote, "Term limits are a form of manipulation, a way of taking away people's right to choose their leaders," unquote. Farid, 2003. This is because it imposes a restriction on the people's ability to elect their preferred leaders, regardless of their performance. The chair, it will interest you to know that according to Afrobarometer 2020, 75% of Ghanaians believe that term limits is an external interference in the democratic process. It is a way of imposing leaders on people, even when they are not our choices, and this is undemocratic. Now to our final argument, term limit is not a surety of getting a better leader. The chair, term limit is just an experimental method that can lead to replacing a good leader with a worse one. Robert Dow once said, and I quote, "Term limit is a gamble, a roll of dice, and there is no guarantee that the next leader will be better than the previous one," unquote. Dow, 1971. Panel of judges, as stated by the Ghana Center for Democratic Development 2019, found that 60% of Ghanaians believe that term limits would not necessarily guarantee a better leader. As contentious as it may sound, majority of Ghanaians would have preferred former presidents Jerry John Rawlings and John Agyekum Kufuor to stay in power a little bit longer, but Ghanaians would deny such wishes, all in the name of constitutional restriction called term limits. Now rebuttals. The chair, our opponents argue that term limits promote citizens' participation in government. This argument is without merit. I want to correct them by saying that there are many ways to participate in government that do not necessarily require holding an elected position. Voting, joining advocacy groups, and volunteering for government programs are all ways to participate in government, so that argument is flawed. They also said that term limits are in line with international best practices, as many democracies have implemented term limits. That is a fallacy. There are no term limits for the prime ministers in UK and Canada. There is no term limits for the Chancellor of Germany. In fact, there are no term limits for the president in South Korea and Switzerland. But all these countries have maintained a high level of democracy using other mechanisms like the parliamentary oversight, independent media, and an active civil society. So that argument is dead on arrival. The chair, panel of judges, ladies and gentlemen, Roger Sherman once said, and I quote, "Nothing renders the government more unstable than a frequent change of the process that administers it," unquote. Based on the validity of our arguments, we hope.
Honorable Chairperson, distinguished adjudicators, fellow debaters, ladies and gentlemen, as we bring this exciting contest to a close, permit me to submit my closing arguments, which will undeniably convince you to completely affirm the proposition. I respond to the name Wendy Baji, a student of NSAWAM Senior High School, and I am elated to be given the opportunity to speak in my capacity as a summarizer in favor of the motion. I quote, "The introduction of term limits for all elected government officials who enhance democracy in Ghana." Unquote. Esteemed judges, it is undebatable that experience in any field of endeavor is invaluable, but while experience is indispensable, over-reliance on it can lead to complacency and resistance to change, especially in politics, where power easily corrupts. The 19th century English historian Lord Acton once said, and I quote, "Power tends to corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Term limits encourage the infusion of new ideas, which prevent the stagnation that can come from prolonged incumbency. My opponents must understand that our veteran politicians, with all their depth of experience outside of office, can be useful. They can still contribute to public life in advisory roles and other capacities." Additionally, the chair, my opponents argue that term limits can lead to short-term thinking and a lack of long-term planning. This viewpoint is really absurd. I would like to remind my opponents that in this 21st century, time is no longer a barrier insofar as development is concerned. A lot can certainly be accomplished in a year with modern technology. What is required is a focused and committed leadership. In today's Ghana, a lot more can be done with a 4-year tenure. Term limits do not prevent long-term planning, as my opponents erroneously claim. Instead, they encourage leaders to prioritize impactful policies within their time in office. The argument that term limits lead to short-termism overlooks the fact that accountability mechanisms such as legislative oversight and public scrutiny remain in place to ensure continuity in policy implementation. Competent judges and my intelligence audience, imagine a garden where the same crops are planted year after year, depleting the soil and stunting growth. Now, envision a garden where diverse seeds are sown, bringing new life and vibrant colors with each season. This is the vision we have for Ghana's democracy, one that flourishes through renewal and diversity. The introduction of term limits for all elected government officials is not merely a procedural change, it is a vital step towards cultivating a more dynamic, accountable, and representative democracy. By pursuing this path, we ensure that power remains a servant to the people, not a master over them. Before I conclude, the chair, let it be known to my opponent that Cameroon's president, Paul Biya, has ruled for 42 years. Equatorial Guinea's president, Teodoro Obiang, has ruled for 45 years. And Congo's president, Denis Sassou Nguesso, has ruled for 40 years. Yet, there has not been any significant democratic development, as we can all attest to it by the occurrences of political unrest in these countries. In conclusion, unbiased judges, introducing term limits for all elected government officials will enhance democracy by reducing corruption, ensuring greater accountability, ensuring stability and continuity, promoting political renewal, enhancing the quality of governance, mitigating electoral manipulation, and preventing power consolidation. The chair, impartial jury, all protocols duly observed, with above points all delineated, and looking at the dejection on the face of my opponents, I therefore call upon you all, I mean all, to affirm the motion. Thank you.
The chairperson, before I start my summary, permit me to rebut an argument raised by our opponent. The chair, our opponents argue that the transition of leaders will enhance democracy. Our opponents are trying to say that term limits will bring fresh ideas and perspectives into government. My response to this argument is simple. It is only an unpatriotic Ghanaian who wait to be elected before bringing ideas into government. President Nana Addo once said, and I quote, "We shouldn't be spectators, but citizens and contribute to government wherever we find ourselves," unquote. So that argument by our opponents cannot stand the test of time, and I wish him to be completely ignored. The chairperson, impartial panel of judges, all protocols duly observed. A beautiful presentation, they say, deserves a beautiful summary. That is why I, Fatou Ward of GOMOA Senior High Technical School debate team, mount this to give a summary of the clear and vivid points we have raised against the motion that I quote. The introduction of term limits for all elected government officials will enhance democracy in Ghana, unquote. The chair, our position is that while term limit may seem appealing at enhancing democracy at first glance, it is a misguided notion that would ultimately undermine the very foundation of our democracy. In all, we have raised the following argument to oppose the motion. 1. The introduction of term limits is a waste of constitutional space, resource, and time. Elections remain the primary means of removing ineffective elected officials from office. 2. Term limit is a form of democratic paternalism based on the arrogant assumption that voters are incapable of deciding who they want to represent them, and that is a violation of the people's political rights. 3. Term limits have the potential to breed corruption and also place necessary financial burden on the states in the form of ex-gratia payments. 4. Term limits can lead to violence and unrest, as seen in other African countries like Burundi and DR Congo. 5. Term limits will lead to the proliferation of unhealthy political rivals, fostering a culture of unnecessary comparison and tension. 6. Term limits undermine long-term initiatives and policy formulation. 7. Term limits are external interference in the democratic process, which undermines the principles of democracy. 8. Term limits are not a surety of getting a better leader, as rightly noted by Rebuttal, and I quote, "It is a gamble, a roll of dice, and there's no guarantee that the next leader will be better than the previous one," unquote. 9. Term limits will lead to the frequent constitutional amendment, which is a recipe for political instability. And finally, term limits will reduce the incentive of elected officials to work hard, especially during their final term. The chair, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to ask our opponents this question. Would a successful CEO do a better job or worse job if she were told that no matter how well the company performs, she's going to be fired at the end of the year? I leave the response as food for thought for them. The chair, I rest my case. Thank you.
Dreaming of studying abroad, United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, or other countries? CUPA Study International makes that dream a reality. With over 29 years experience in the school placement business, we provide expert guidance to prospective students from application to admission on visa processing, accommodation, travel, and scholarships. Our global partnerships open doors to prestigious universities worldwide, helping you gain world-class education and international exposure and preparing our students for their future careers. From your hometown to your dream destination, we work with you every step of the way. CUPA Study International, Ghana's premier college and university placement agency, is an efficient and very professional agency. Visit us today to take the next steps towards a successful career. Success starts here. Let's facilitate your study abroad journey smoothly.
Imagine a world without worry. A place where everyone is who they say they are, where the people and assets most important to you are protected. A safe space. For over 3 decades, Margins ID Group and its subsidiaries have been building this world. Our state-of-the-art access control systems, asset tagging systems, and CCTV installations ensure that the assets most important to you are protected. We have designed and built award-winning national identity infrastructures, supported by our ultra-modern in-house designed and built verification system. We are the identity experts. We represent you, and we are certified to do so. Proudly, the only African facility to be certified by Intergraph at central banking level. Margins ID Group, made in Ghana by Ghanaians for the world. Visit us now at www.marginsgroup.com.
The National Girls Speech and Debate Championship is brought to you by Mermac Productions in partnership with the Ghana Education Service, Ghana Commission for UNESCO, Forum for African Women Educationalists, and Planned Parenthood Association of Ghana. Proudly sponsored by Margins ID Systems, Identity Management Systems, Intelligent Card Production Systems, CUPA Study International, Verna Mineral Water, McBerry Biscuits, and Planet Drinks. Also supported by Uncle Adlaw, for Buying Organization, and Canan Care Travel and Tour. NGSDC, educate, empower, encourage.
Okay, so we are to the end of proceedings for today, and what I think we are all waiting for is to know who won what, right? Okay, so I'll start by declaring the best debater of this second session. And after comparing notes, our scores, among the 3 of us as judges, it was unanimous that the best debater of this second session, and here we're talking about students from NSAWAM Senior High School and GOMOA Senior High Technical School. The best debater for this second session is the first presenter, GOMOA Senior High Technical School.
From Flora.
So thank you, Precious, fantastic presentation. And as the CEO says, think about a career in public speaking, but it goes for all of you because you all have the potential, and we'll urge you to continue your building on what you have today. There is more ahead for you to build onto and to perfect and to build capacity. Now, the ultimate. So, for one school, and after independently collating our scores, and as you said earlier, I like it when all of you say impartial judges. That is what we are individually. So, but we put everything together. So, for one school, Judge 1 scored the school 257 out of 300 marks. Now, Judge 2 scored 255 out of 300. And the third judge scored 238 marks out of 300. So total is 750 marks out of 900. Now for the second school, Judge 1 scored 268 out of 300. Judge 2, 275 out of 300. And the third judge, 269 out of 300. The total is 812. This is a very, very high score, if you ask me. 812 out of 900 marks. Now, which school are we talking about? The winner for today is GOMOA Senior Technical School. Thank you.
name is Francisca Odu. I was the first supporting speaker. As I told you earlier on in the morning, we are going to bring victory, and then we did it. Thanks be to God for everything. And then thanks to my colleagues as well. Kudos to everyone. Thank you.
I respond to the name Wendy Baji, a student of NSAWAM Senior High School, and we are very elated to be a part of this tournament. We thank God for bringing us this far. Though we didn't go through the quarterfinals, but we are very, very happy. We did our best. We've come this far, and we are very, very grateful for how far he has brought us. And we wish the other schools who are moving to the next stage the very best of luck, and we hope they win.
I'm Precious to say, the principal speaker of GOMOA Senior High, and I would say we had an amazing day, and the competition wasn't an easy one, but we were prepared for it, so definitely we won. And we are going to be prepared for the next competition, because I know it won't be easy. I'm from GOMOA Senior High. Unity, hard work, and progress. Thank you.
My name is Gossin, teacher of NSAWAM Senior High School, and also I'm among the coaching team for our debating squad. We prepared adequately for this contest. We're expecting to win. I mean, the girls can attest to that. But I think GOMOA really gave us a really, really tough competition. I expected it, and I reminded our ladies, our girls here, every now and then when we were rehearsing. And so I am not too surprised that they won, but I knew that it was going to be very close, and it was. And well, there were many schools. We made it all the way to the quarterfinals, and fortunately, we are not moving ahead. But we are hoping that next year, when the championship starts, we'll make it all the way to the semi-final and hopefully to the final and eventually win it. Honestly, I hope that we can meet GOMOA again come next year, and then we can, really get our revenge.
Please, I'm Mr. Douglas Emisa, Assistant Headmaster from GOMOA Senior High Technical School, in charge of academics. In fact, I'm really happy and extremely excited for this contest. We really worked hard for it, and we have won. We are coming from GOMOA West District. Let me say it's a village, but looking at the caliber of students that we have and the kind of training that we've taken them through, God has also been so good on our side, and victory has been ours. We promise and we believe that going for the semi-finals, we are going to qualify to finals, and we are going to win the contest finally. We are sure that we are going to be champions. Come in the next round, we are champions.
Okay. Unity, hard work, and progress.